Mark says, I find it troubling how many people in the States still support Trump, even with all the evidence against him. On that note, I want to share with you something that I saw. Now, before I share it with you, this is not scientific. This is not based on any research. It is not gospel. It's just an interesting thing I found on X, on Twitter. So I was scrolling and came across some story, and in it, this little meme was in there in the response, and it really got me thinking. Now, again, this is not based on any science. It is not based on any theology. This is not gospel. This is not something for us to say, but the minister showed us this, so it must be true. This is just something that got me thinking. Here is the truth. Great big bold capital letters. Here is the truth. Trump's supporters don't measure his success by what he does for them. They measure by what he does against people they don't like. That's why they see him as being successful. This is why they will never abandon him. His tormenting of the others sustains them. So again, I don't know who wrote this, and we're not going to take this as gospel. It's just an interesting thought. Bottom line, people that are supporting Trump, they're not supporting him because of what he is actually going to do for them. They're supporting him because of what hell he will rain down on people they don't like. The people that they see as their enemy, people that they see as their competition, people who they see as their competitors, right? No, I don't believe Trump is going to fix the problems in my life. Trump, though, is going to take care. He's going to make it difficult, make the lives of the people who make my life difficult. He's against my enemies. And so I'm for him. That sounds kind of awful. It sounds really shallow. But it does come with a certain sense of logic. And I don't mean logic because that's who Trump supporters are. I mean logic because that's who people are. That's who we are. So I sometimes have a difficult time with the Psalms. You get into the Psalms, and as you're reading them, there's some really nasty lines in there. Oftentimes we think, the Psalms are poetry and it's beauty and it's about God's love. It is, but oftentimes there's a lot of Psalms that are written from a place of real despair, right? The author is going through something really horrible, whatever that may be, and it'll come to this place where the author says, "And Lord, I'm just looking forward to the day where you smite my enemy. I can't wait for the day that you take my enemy by the feet and bash them against rocks. I can't wait for the day that you destroy the kingdoms of my enemy, where you tear them down, where you put them in their place. I can't wait for the day where you take all of those people who stand against me, all of those people who believe differently than I do, all of those people who are trying to take from me, who are trying to steal from me, who are persecuting me, who are making my life difficult, all those people that I'm afraid of. I can't wait for the day that, you give them their comeuppance." Now, we can look at the Psalms, and again, it's one of those things that I think it's important for us when we look at the Psalms, when we look at any piece of Scripture, to ask ourselves, what is it saying, not only about God, but about the author, about the people of the time, about the culture, right? The author of the Psalms isn't saying that God gets a kick out of destroying people who stand against me. The message that you see in those passages is that right now life is really, really hard, and I am blaming those people for how difficult my life is, and I really want God to smack them about. I really want God to come down and give them what for. I really want God to come down and give them a shot or two, right? Make them back off. I really want God to destroy them because I blame them. And again, I would argue this is human nature. This doesn't say anything about God. It says everything about us. We blame others. We blame others for what we're going through. There's a couple of really great memes out there. There's one of it's like, in that sort of that old 20s kind of format. And it's got this great big, let's call him slovenly guy with a top hat on and a suit. And in front of him, he's got a mound of cookies. And on one side of the table, it has a guy, a worker, Caucasian, sitting there with one cookie in front of him. And on the other side, it's got an immigrant with no cookies in front of him. And the guy with all the big mound of cookies, again, usually he's a white guy, but this guy with this big mound of cookies, he represents a billionaire. He represents the incredibly wealthy. And he whispers over to the fellow with the one cookie, "Oh, careful. I think that immigrant's going to try to steal your cookie." The idea being, man, I've taken all the cookies, but that's the one you should be blaming. That's the one you should be watching. That's the one you should be leery of. Now, with that being said, I also, and this is completely off topic, but there was a report today that said billionaires, 3 billionaires, have put in as much as $200+ million into Trump's coffers for this election just in the last little while. Right? 3 billionaires. Now, if a billionaire is putting that much money in there, I guarantee it isn't because that billionaire wants to help out the working class folks of the Appalachians. It's because they know they're going to get something. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Back to this meme. Trump supporters don't measure his success by what he does for them. They measure by what he does against people they don't like. Think about the people that he attacks. Think about the people that he lambastes. Think about the people that he claims he's going to throw out of the country day one. Think about the people whose lives he wants to turn upside down, or says whose lives he wants to turn upside down. That's why they see him as being successful. He says hateful things about the people they don't like. He's one of us. No closer to being one of them. He just happens to know who they don't like and is completely willing to say whatever he can about whoever he can if it means garnering votes. But this is why they will never abandon him. His tormenting of the others sustains them. His tormenting of the others gives them hope that they matter to him. Makes them feel like they matter to him, or at least their cause is his cause. It's human nature, sadly. And we've seen it over and historically speaking, we've seen it over and over and over again. No, they're not going to make my life better, but they seem to hate the same people I hate. No, they're not going to make my life better, but they're claiming that they're going to protect me from the people I'm afraid of. No, they're not going to make my life better, but you know what? The lives of those people who I think are immoral, those lives of the people that I think are illegal, those lives of the people that I think are wrong, their lives aren't going to get any better. No, he's not going to make my life any better, but they're not going to get the same privileges that I have. He'll stop that. It's our selfish side. And again, you see it in the Psalms. It's the psalmist, when calling for the destruction of their enemies, they're showing their selfish nature. They're showing their selfishness. They're showing how they are willing and calling for the destruction and the torment of others because they blame others for their problems. But for the Christian out there, we're to set these selfish ways aside. Not put them away for a rainy day. We're supposed to set them aside. We are supposed to rise above this base, instinctual response to trouble and to our problems. Jesus doesn't tell us, and God will smite your enemies. Jesus tells us, you are to love your enemies. You are to bless those who persecute you. It might be reversed. But we're not supposed to give in to that desire to for our enemies, to want our enemies to be destroyed. We're not supposed to give in to that desire to want those who we oppose to be destroyed. We're supposed to love them. And I would argue we're supposed to live our lives in such a way that we stop seeing others as enemies. And we learn to see everyone, regardless of who they are, regardless of who they love, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their gender, regardless of their desires to have children or not, regardless of their faith, regardless of their language, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their political affiliations. We are supposed to be living our lives in such a way that we are practicing seeing everyone as children of God. Part of this great creation, just like you and I. Recipients of these great gifts, just like you and I. Recipients of this great love from God, just like you and I. These baser emotional reactions where we're looking for someone to stand up for us and destroy and torment and put down those that we're afraid of. Well, we're also, as Christians, supposed to be working on not being afraid of putting our trust in God. Again, I think this meme offers us a little insightful, it could offer us an insightful catalyst to discuss our fear, to discuss our selfishness, to discuss our desire to see others suffer. And again, as Christians, recognize that it's there and practice living a life where we're casting it out. Recognize that it's there and practice living a life where we are actively working against it, living in ways that run counter to that fear. Amen.